It's me again. Oh, look how pretty that is.
Fun stuff.
I love this part. Oh, that is beautiful, Chef. Bon appetit.
Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. I've got some special ideas for you today about brunch, one of my absolute favorite ways to entertain. And you know, when I was writing the cookbook, one of my ideas was, why don't I give you all the menus in the back of the book and actually put the recipe and the page number right beside it. And that way you don't even have to think about what you're going to prepare for any of these selected items. So today we're going to make 3 of my favorites from the Sunday brunch menu in the book. We're going to start with the breakfast casserole, one of my family's absolute favorites. And then we're going to move into chicken poppy seed casserole, which is great for brunch, but it's super duper for dinner too. And then finally, I'm going to teach you how to make cheddar cheese and chive biscuits. You can stuff them with a little ham. And then in Vera's Corner, as long as we're talking about brunch, I'm going to tell you why it's the perfect entertaining choice. So let's get started on that breakfast casserole. Okay, so let me tell you about this breakfast casserole. Lynn Hunt in Madison, Georgia gave me this recipe back in the late 70s, and it was the hottest recipe around, and I just loved it. So I've started making it every year for my family for Christmas morning and Thanksgiving morning. So one Christmas Eve, all of a sudden in the middle of dinner, I'm going, and they said, what's the matter? And I said, I forgot to buy the ingredients for breakfast casserole. Well, my 2 sons got in the car and went to like 6 gas stations looking for these ingredients because it wouldn't have been Christmas without it. We didn't have the exact brand names that I was familiar with, but we had breakfast casserole. So you're going to love to make this part of your Christmas Eve celebration for sure, because you've got to make it the night before. So I have gone ahead and greased my casserole dish, and the recipe calls for white bread that you just cube. You can cut it up with a knife. You can tear it into pieces with your hands. And if you want to get those young people in the kitchen with you, just do what works best for the age of the children that you have. Now, if you want it to be a little bit heartier, you could do sourdough, but the original recipe just used plain white bread. Now, back to that original recipe. It told you to butter that bread before you cut it. And do you know how long that took? So this is where you get shortcuts going, and you melt that butter and just pour it over that casserole dish. All right, on the sausage, I'm kind of picky about my brands, and I love Jimmy Dean. It doesn't, I scrambled this ahead. You can see that there's not that much oil in the pan. I did my strainer with paper towels under it, very little fat. It's very tasty, it scrambles really well, and you've got your choice of either hot or mild. And since I make it for the entire family, I always go with the mild, but if you want to dress it up a little bit, use their hot sausage. So now we're just layering that over the top. And you know, if it's not scrambled all the way cooked through, it's certainly going to finish cooking when you bake it. All right, now the liquid part. So I've got my eggs already cracked, and I'm going to whip those with my wire whisk before I add in the rest. So just get those going, and you want to, use a bowl that you can use enough hand action that you can get that combined really well. All right, so when we get to the milk part, you've got lots of choices. The recipe calls for half and half. If you want it to be a little bit on the lighter side, you can use skim milk or whole milk. If you want it to be really creamy, you could use heavy cream. But I'm going to stick today with the original recipe with half and half. We're just going to combine that. And then the next little thing that makes this kind of different is it uses dry mustard as just a different flavor profile to make this really good. If you want to add more of that, you certainly can. And so now we're just going to pour this over the entire dish. So if you kind of start, since I've got a bowl, it's going to eventually reach all the edges. So I'm just going to go back and forth with it. Okay, and then lastly, you've got your grated cheese. and I hand grate it. I tell you that in the book. I don't care what the recipe is. We hand grate that cheese, but there is a lot of cheese in this recipe. And there's just something about, first of all, it's just part of the enjoyment of getting in the kitchen and doing something for somebody that you love. And certainly we hope we all love our families and friends, but it just really blends better. It doesn't have any of that artificial coating on the top. And it's just going to make a more beautiful presentation on the top of the casserole dish. So as I said, you're going to refrigerate this overnight, but don't worry. I made one yesterday, got it in the refrigerator. I'm going to pull that out and get it into a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes. So when we come back, we're going to get started on that chicken poppy seed casserole. And if you're not a breakfast person, you're going to want to make this for dinner. Okay, we've got that breakfast casserole in the oven, and when those boys were little bitty, I had to get up at the crack of dawn to get it cooked and ready by the time they woke up. So this is going to be delicious. So the chicken poppy seed casserole is one of our all-time favorites. It was part of Gourmet to Go in my company, and people ordered it through the mail and also came in to pick it up. It's great for brunch. It's also great for dinner. So what I've started with is I've got a stick of butter in this pan. It's melting. I'm going to add to that mushrooms and onions. And these are always, I'm going to always use a Vidalia if it is anywhere nearby. So I'm just going to get that cooking until the onions are translucent. So while that's cooking, let's move over here to what makes this casserole the absolute best to me, and that's the bottom crust and the top crust. So Ritz crackers are the key. I mean, there's just nothing better. And it tells you to crush them. So let me give you a little tip. You can do it right here in the bag. That plastic is so heavy duty that you can just start that crushing process right in that bag. Hold it over your bowl, and then when you're done, you can just let it go. So I've already done one. This is the other one. So here again, I always love to throw out that little suggestion. If you've got that grandchild you want to introduce to the kitchen, or your own child, you know, this is a perfect way to do it. So there you go. Haven't messed up too much doing that. Yummy, yummy. All right. Poppy seeds goes in with that, and then melted butter. So this is going to be your base for this casserole. So just mix that together. And then we're going to put half of it in the bottom of a greased square baking pan. All right. So let's get that in about halfway. Okay. And it looks like the rest of that's getting together. So now we've got that spread out. Let's go back over here. We're going to add in our chicken bouillon. Remember, this is like a 40s recipe. So when it tells you to use this cream of chicken soup, that's exactly what you're going to use. And I know you're all going, people don't do that anymore. But you know what? This casserole is so yummy. You've got to follow the instructions that are in the book. All right, now some sour cream. That's yummy. This is going to be really creamy, a really creamy casserole. So we'll stir that together. So I went ahead and I boiled my chicken breast in salted water for about 10 minutes until it is cooked thoroughly in the inside. Put it out on my cutting board, and then you just take a fork and start shredding it. So that really works well for this casserole. Then also I've gone ahead and pre-cooked my egg noodles. They come in all shapes and sizes, so just use what you like the best there. So now I'm going to add my chicken in. Got a lot to work with here. See, this casserole, that's why people loved it so much when they came to pick it up from us, because it had plenty of protein in it, plenty of chicken in this dish. All right, so now I'm going to add this to my egg noodles. It's a heavy pan. Just get all that goodie out of there. And this is just scrumptious. So we're gonna mix this together. And then this is going to go into this casserole dish. So since we're going into a break, let me go ahead and tell you that in Vera's Corner today, I'm going to give you tips on why brunch is your best choice for entertaining. And then after the break, I'm going to teach you how to make cheddar cheese and chive biscuits. You don't want to miss it. Come back with us in just a few minutes. If you're having a party or a shower, consider a brunch menu. As a former caterer, I always suggested clients to choose that as an option, and here's why. Everyone loves brunch. There's something for everybody on a brunch menu, from French toast to quiche. Brunch also doesn't necessarily call for meat, which makes it easy to accommodate vegetarian guests. A brunch menu is affordable. The types of foods, pastries, cobblers, eggs, pancakes, and waffles can be creatively presented and are everyone's favorite. Making more than enough for everyone will not break the budget. Because brunch is a little more casual than other types of menus, this allows for foods that can be easily eaten with a fork, meaning you don't have to necessarily provide seating for everyone. Every chair, place setting, and tablecloth adds to the overall cost, so this is helpful. A brunch wedding means a morning wedding or one at high noon. A morning wedding is unique and could open up more possibilities for wedding party attire and decor. High noon is the most formal, but if the priority is beautiful flowers and other decor, then a simply served menu keeps you on track. Finally, a brunch event makes for gorgeous photos. Morning light is perfect for beautiful photography, especially for a wedding. Consider brunch for your next event. Welcome back, everybody. And you know, I'm having so much fun today making these recipes from the Sunday brunch menu in the back of the cookbook. And one of my all-time favorites is the cheddar cheese and chive biscuits. And can I tell you that they were sold in Neiman Marcus catalog? And they were also sold at VeryVera. So these are really, really good. So you're gonna start with self-rising flour. I've got that already measured. And then this actually uses lard. So I have cubed the lard and it's been chilled so it's nice and cold. And then you can use your pastry cutter, if you have one, to start cutting that in. Or you could use a couple of, dull knives to do it. You can also do it with your fingers, just pressing it together. But what you want to do is incorporate this so that it looks like course meal when you're finished. I also love to, just make sure that you, again, take your time. If you're going to go to the trouble to do this, follow the instructions in the recipe and make sure that you do it right. Biscuits are kind of a love language. They're gonna know whether the person making them really cares about them, and they're going to turn out beautifully if you take your time. All right, so we've got that fairly mixed together. I think that's just about right. And it'll be mixed some more when I add these other ingredients. So I've got my chives already done. Gonna add those in. And my, remember, freshly grated sharp cheddar cheese. And these are just so pretty, stuffed with ham on a buffet line because they've got a little bit of character to them. All right, so let's just mix that together. And now I've got my buttermilk. We're gonna add that in. You do kind of get a little bit messy doing this, but that's okay. All right, so buttermilk in, and I love to get every last bit of that out of there. And again, you can add more or less depending on how you feel like this dough is managing. But I'm going to use my forks now to kind of gradually start the mixing process. And then I'll be turning it out onto this board. So you don't want to mix too much. So many people make wonderful biscuits. There's so many different varieties. But on these, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the show today, part of what I love to teach as a former caterer and what I do with my children during camp is that you cannot wait until the last minute to make everything that you're doing for this party. So at the end today, I'm going to tell you more about a time process to get this going. But what you want to do with these biscuits is that these also freeze beautifully. We shipped them frozen. And so we are going to make sure that we have these made ahead so that we can just pull those out at the last minute and heat them up. All right, so I'm going to just pull out just a little bit of this dough, and we'll do a few batches at a time. And you're going to do this to about a 3/4 inch thickness. And see how pretty it looks, the dough? So you're getting a nice thick biscuit. I've got another bowl of flour right here, and we are going to just go straight down, lift up, and go to the pan. So straight down, lift up, and go to the pan. So what you want to do here is make sure that you're putting these close together. So if you're using these for a dinner party, of course, you would do a lot bigger. But for a brunch, a 2-bite size is just perfect. And any leftover dough that you have, you want to work quickly so that you're not overbeating that as well. All right, so I've got quite a mess here. I'm going to keep making these biscuits. And when we come back from the break, we're going to go over all the details of being absolutely ready the day of the event with all of your dishes having been pre-made. So come back with us in just a few minutes. Well, I don't know about you, but this episode has made me so hungry. I love brunch food and just breakfast food in general. In fact, I could make this meal for dinner. So I'm so excited to have been able to share these with you and hope that you will enjoy making them too. As always, our recipes are available on our website at VeryVera.com. But then, of course, they're in our new cookbook as well. So let's kind of walk through what we did today. We started with the breakfast casserole, and it just baked up so beautifully, and needless to say, it is scrumptious, just loaded with lots of sausage, lots of cheese. It is a fabulous dish to serve to your family. Can't wait for that. All right, so then that is so much cheese, sometimes it's hard to get it out. All right, so that is delicious. Then the chicken Poppyseed casserole, which is just, I mean, this crust on this casserole is, to me, the absolute best part. So you've really got lots of meat in this. If your husband says, I don't like casseroles, you have got to try this one and see if he'll change his mind, because it is loaded with meat. It's so crispy. It's not just loaded up. It's not, you know, it's almost an entree in itself. Just doesn't have that whole casserole ooey gooey business going on. It's so good. And then how about the cheddar cheese and chive biscuits? They're so light. They are so fluffy. Just look at that. These just smothered in butter. You know, we brushed the top of them with butter as soon as they came out of the oven, but these are just so light. This size is perfect for just bite size. So let's talk about that for just a minute. In Vera's Corner today, I gave you all the reasons why brunch entertaining is just the best option there is. And I want to kind of speak more to why the economics of this makes so much sense, but also the logistics. So let's decide that we're going to give this party the end or on the first day of December. So what we want to do is mail the invitations at the end of October, actually like right around the 1st, because during the holiday period you want to give plenty of notice, almost 4 weeks notice of a party. Then from there, let's start thinking about this overall menu that's in the book for Sunday brunch. It has a lot of other components besides this. So on a Monday early in the month, I'm going to go ahead and make both of those pound cakes because they freeze so well. And you know, as long as you're making a pound cake, make 2. Just measure double of everything. Then we're going to make the biscuits on a Wednesday the day after. And as long as I'm going to spend the day doing that, I'm going to make biscuits all the way through the end of December. Then we're going to wait for the RSVPs to come in at the end of the month, a week before the event, before we buy the expensive things that are needed so you don't buy more than you need. We can make the chicken casserole on Monday and freeze it. We can make the baked French toast the same way. The tomato pie doesn't freeze well, so we want to make that maybe on Thursday before the party. So there's so many options for what you do. So as you can see, brunch really makes you be lighthearted about entertaining. You can even set the table a day in advance. So I hope I've given you some great ideas today. As always, I say, no matter what you do it in good taste. I know I've got some great tasting things coming up. I want you to come back and join me again next week. And in the meantime, enjoy this holiday season.